My linen dishcloth knitting pattern creates these beautiful woven pieces. Design your dishcloths by creatively mixing and matching your yarn colors. They're easily memorizable because it's just a 2-row repeat and we're using 2 different yarn colors. When the weather is warming up, these small little quick knits are perfect to keep you cool. Hi, I'm Kristen and welcome back to Studio Knit. Let's take a closer look at these linen dishcloths together. I love making these for gifts. You can use them for scrubbing in the kitchen or as a spa treatment in the bath. I designed these quick knits in the popular linen stitch because it's a thin, solid piece with visually engaging color changes. They're perfect for washing because we're using cotton yarn which dries quickly. In this video, I'll be demonstrating the small version. It's 8 by 8 inches, a perfect square with very specific color changes. And this stitch is really fun because you can have solid stripes of color. Just changing the color every 2 rows gives really intricate detail. Some people think that it looks like little bunny ears. For our knitting supplies, we're using 2 different colors of cotton yarn, which is worsted weight, number 4, and our knitting needles are size 7 US, and I'm using a 9-inch in length. You can use longer, but this is perfect for this smaller little piece, along with scissors and a tapestry needle. For the 2 different yarn colors, identify which will be your color A and color B. You'll want 21 yards of color A and twice as much, 42 yards of color B. And it's helpful to mark down which is which as you're going along, just to avoid any confusion. So I'm demonstrating with color A in the white, and you'll definitely want to get my free written pattern. It's over on my Studio Knit website for you. It's linked in the description below, and you can quickly jump to the printable pattern, which gives you all the details that you need. You have the written instructions for the linen stitch, and then step-by-step instructions, along with a knitting chart of the linen stitch, and then the color changes. I have both the color change chart, and I also have the written instructions row by row for the color changes going between color A and color B throughout the pattern from rows 1 all the way up to 72. If you're feeling ambitious and would like to give some other sizes a try, I have larger sizes, and this pattern is available for purchase over in my Studio Knit shop. There's the small version, 8 by 8, also another square, which is 12 by 12, and a dish towel that's 12 by 18 inches. And if you'd like to give this linen dishcloth a try, please like up this video. It lets me know that you'd like to see more videos like this. So at the end of this video, make sure to get your free written pattern for this small version. And we are beginning by casting on 43 stitches. Again, my color A is in the color white. The linen stitch is just 2 rows. The stitches are a lot easier than it looks written out. K1 is knit 1, and then we have slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front. So we're knitting our first stitch, and then with the yarn in front, we are going to slip 1 purlwise. So that is just taking your needle and slipping that stitch off. Bring your yarn to the back, and we repeat K1 and the slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front, over and over and over all the way to the end of the row. As you can see, this is very easy to memorize. We're just knitting 1 and slipping 1 stitch. And then here at the very end of our row, our final little stitch is K1 knitting 1 stitch. Here on row 2 on the wrong side, we begin by slipping 1 stitch purlwise, and I want to point out you'll want to make sure to have that yarn in the back this time. WYIV is with yarn in back. Make sure that yarn is in the back, slip that first stitch, then bring it to the front and purl 1, then bring your yarn to the back and slip 1 purlwise. So the repeat here is purl 1, slip one purlwise with the yarn and back all the way to the very end of our row. And looking at the instructions for color changes, we're knitting color A rows 1 through 4. So we just did rows 1 and 2. So that means we do the next 2 rows totally identically, again with color A. And I do have it written out for you, as well as a color chart, whichever way you prefer following along. And you can print this off, so you can just tick the rows as you go through. That's one of the ways that I like to keep track. Now when it's time to change yarn colors, in this example, we're changing yarn colors on row 5. I'm cutting my yarn, and then I am changing the yarn color. It's the exact same linen stitch. We're beginning with 1 knit stitch, and then with our yarn in front, we're slipping 1 purlwise, continuing all the way down the row. And you'll see that by doing this pattern with the color changes, it gives us alternating colors on our needle on the first row of color changes. And then the second row of our linen stitch on the wrong side, same pattern with our color change. We're keeping the color. We're only changing at the beginning of the front of our work, so it keeps it really easy. We're beginning by slipping 1 stitch with our yarn and back, and then following the repeat pattern of purling 1 and slipping 1 purlwise with our yarn and back all the way down the row. And continue following the color pattern or chart for all 72 rows total. I want to show you the wrong side, the back side of our work, and that it's not a reversible pattern with these color changes as well as the texture. It's bumpy, but you know, for washing, that is really helpful. Once you've knit all 72 rows, it's time to bind off, and I recommend binding off as tightly as possible. And this is unusual, right? Because with binding off, most times we're trying to bind off a little bit more on the loose side, but this time it's really helpful to bind off tightly, otherwise your edges might flare out. And I find that binding off tightly helps, 1, if I'm really paying attention, and 2, if I keep the stitches close to the tips of my knitting needles. Another trick, if you have even smaller knitting needles than size 7, you can switch to those, and that helps you bind off tightly as well. Okay, now it's time for the dreaded weaving in of the yarn ends. Cut your yarn, and with your color changes, you will have quite a few yarn ends to weave through. Just have some patience, and if you'd like, you could even weave them in as you knit along. So once you get to the end, it's not quite as overwhelming if you're somebody like me who is not a huge fan of weaving in yarn ends. Now the piece does look really great straight off the needles, but I do recommend wet blocking if you can. It, 1, helps the piece be a perfect square, but the color changes and the linen stitch texture really look great when you are able to take the time to block. I simply wet block, and it's great on blocking mats. You can make sure that you are stretching that yarn to the exact size that you want. This is 8 by 8 right here. And I typically just leave it overnight, and with cotton yarn, since it does dry quickly, you're guaranteed that it will be ready for you in the morning. I hope you are inspired to knit up these linen stitch dishcloths. Again, the free written pattern is over on my website. And if you're feeling ambitious, give the other sizes a try as well. And that pattern is in my Studio Knit shop. I have more creative dishcloths for you to knit up. So head on over to this next pattern and I will see you there.